So you've woken up after a great night of sleep, got into a ship, and you've undocked from the station. Then you warp to a bookmark expecting to see a wormhole, and instead you find empty space. Well, I guess it's time to remap the system and update those bookmarks, and in this video I'm going to show you exactly how I do this for Occulta Navis. Just before we get started though, I want to make a few things clear. A few prerequisites, if you like. Firstly, I'm not going to be demonstrating every part of the UI you need to be aware of to follow along. I will expect you to know what I'm doing from a UI perspective, although I will point out some important elements, of course. Second, I'm not going to go into too much detail on the format of my bookmarks, as I'll be doing that in another video. And finally, I've scaled up my UI and I've kept it clear so that you can see what's going on. This isn't what my UI usually looks like. Anyway, let's crack on. After you've undocked, the first thing you're going to want to do is check the probe window for the system's current signatures. Next, you're going to open up the shared bookmark folder that you're using to map the system and share the results with your alts, your corp, or whomever you're playing with. Any signatures that are in your bookmark folder that are not visible in the probe window can now be deleted. Those signatures have expired since you were last logged into the game, and the wormhole or deployable object, for example, whatever it was, no longer exists. Now that you have a clean, up-to-date bookmark folder to work with, we can start scanning down those new signatures. To scan down the signatures, I use a Sisters expanded probe launcher with Sisters core probes. Regardless of what you're using, begin scanning down each signature to discover what it is one by one and get them all scanned down. As a small note, I like to organize my probe window signatures by ID or name. I don't use the distance because that changes as you move away from and towards the signature, and that moves the items around in the list. That's just a personal preference though. So I've now scanned down all the signatures in the system and I'm aware of what is what. Anything that's not a deployable object or a site such as a data or relic site or perhaps a wormhole, I leave completely unbookmarked. Now, how do I go about bookmarking what I've found? Okay, so I prefix my bookmarks with a character depending on what it is and how important it is for that particular bookmark to be at the top of the list. To make this possible, your bookmarks window has to have the order set by the label. So for a safety bookmark, something that's generally pretty important, I use an exclamation point to make sure that it's at the top of the bookmark list. For a perch over or near a wormhole or gate, for example, I use a hash as it has to come after the exclamation mark in the list but before everything else, and that's just how the Eve client organizes the list. And for a deployable object, for example like a mobile depot that maybe someone left behind after doing some PvP within the system, I use the @ symbol like the one you get in an email address, which comes after the above two we just mentioned, the exclamation point and the hash, but before everything else. Now this is how I create the actual bookmark. First, I press Ctrl B to bring up the bookmark window and I fill in the details ahead of time. Don't try and bring up the bookmark window and fill in the details whilst you're at warp. There's just simply no point in doing that because it's just going to make things harder for yourself. With the details filled in, let's now warp to a wormhole, in this example, somewhere between 30 to 70 kilometers, never 0 kilometers, especially to a wormhole or a gate, nor 100 kilometers, as it's actually quite a predictable range and is often camped or rigged with anti-cloak cans. Okay, so this is the important part. I'm going to create the bookmark by clicking submit on the bookmark window as I get around 5 to 15 kilometers away from the wormhole. Once that's done, we can now warp to the safety that we just created, and you'll see that it's a good distance away from the wormhole. It's not so far away that we can't use the look at feature on the wormhole in order to monitor it and see if anything's coming through and hear if anything's coming through. And it's not so close that we're in any danger of being uncloaked or easily tackled. Just keep in mind, you'll want the bookmark to be greater than 500 kilometers away to keep yourself outside of a possible drag bubble, which is a very nasty thing to get caught by. Finally, we can create a 0 kilometer bookmark of the wormhole so that we can warp straight to it and jump through at our pleasure, but not before using the safety bookmark to ensure it's not being camped or bubbled. This is the super easy part. All you have to do is just right click on the wormhole in the overview window, never the probe window, and you click save location. This will allow you to create yet another bookmark that will be at exactly 0 kilometers on a wormhole. That essentially means instantly jumping through. On a station, that would be called an instant dock bookmark. This time I use a different but common methodology for defining this bookmark, but I'm not going to cover that in this video. And that's it. You've created a safety bookmark on the wormhole, which you can use for, well, a few things actually. You can keep a cloaked alt account on the wormhole side at the safety, so you have someone constantly watching it for you before you jump through from a nullsec or lowsec or highsec system. You can camp at it and wait for people to come through the wormhole and then tackle them. There's so much you can do with a safety bookmark. If you found this helpful, then please let me know in the comments below. Of course, if I've made any mistakes, then also let me know, and if they're bad enough, then I can obviously redo the video and replace it. Or if you think you know better, that's fine. Please just let me know in the comments. I'm very, very keen to continuously learn, and if you know more than me, then I'm more than happy to learn from you. But thanks for watching. Fly safer with your new safety bookmarks.